Hi, and welcome to our first Google Hangout of the 2016 New World Symphony season. I'm Julia Coronelli, and I'm the harpist here. I'm joined by bassoonist Darren Hicks, violinist Claire Sams, and Teddy Abrams, who is a New World Symphony alum, and he's also music director of the Louisville Orchestra and the Brit Classical Festival in Jacksonville, Oregon. So today, I don't know if we have any participants yet, but today we're going to be talking about all different things with Teddy, but especially how to become involved in your community where you're living, and the importance of doing that, which is something that Teddy is absolutely incredible at. I actually was just watching a Facebook video before I came here of Teddy taking us on a tour of his neighborhood in Louisville and all the amazing places that he goes every day. So we're also going to be talking about how to start your own chamber group with friends and colleagues. So let's jump in.
There are two people watching.
Oh, are there?
Yeah.
Hi. Are you able to introduce yourselves? Maybe not. Okay.
There are three now.
There's three people.
Back to two. That's very disappointing. You don't like that question.
Yeah.
Don't make them. There's just one. Don't make them identify themselves. The great anonymous internet does not like the.
Okay.
Does not like the identification.
Perfect.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. So also, I'm interested on your thoughts about the importance of being a well-rounded person and part of your community, and not just being locked in a practice room 24 hours a day, which some of us do sometimes more than others. But I think it's also, especially because people watching this are going to be in high school, it can be a great time to get things done instrument-wise, but it also, you're also so busy with high school and other things. So.
Yes. Do you want to go ahead and start? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, where amongst those topics should we begin?
Okay.
How about we start with some practical ideas about how to sort of form a chamber group? I mean, you can obviously just like go with your friends and sort of play around, but are there better ways to sort of formulate a group, do you think?
Well, I think it really depends on what kind of group you want to form ultimately. I mean, a lot of the most interesting groups in history, well, of course, we have a lot of data on bands.
Right.
Various chamber ensembles throughout history have more of a checkered kind of biographical background that we're able to access. But we know a lot about how bands get started, that's for sure. I think maybe we can learn something from that world. Obviously, you have to have kind of personal camaraderie, and it's ultimately going to kind of develop naturally and organically. You can't just, choose three people and say that you want those all-stars. You're going to be like, well, I'll take Yo-Yo and Josh Bell, and it's not going to probably happen. So, it's got to be something of an organic growth. I think a lot of people naturally meet folks at music festivals and in school. And a lot of times these schools are deliberately trying to get people to play with lots of different people so that you get perspective of different students. There's a lot of rotation, but sometimes it can be good to really just concentrate, I think, and find people with whom you share the same kind of ethos about music making and the kind of music that you want to play. And these days, frankly, if you're looking to start some kind of ensemble, you're going to have to think about what the profile of that ensemble is going to be. I mean, what's your reason for existing, essentially? I mean, is it to put on yet another series of Beethoven quartets, which is definitely extraordinary music and worth playing, but some of the most brilliant, insightful artists have put their stamp on Beethoven quartets. And if that's really the entirety of what you're interested in doing, you're going to have some exceptional competition. And even if you are the very best at it, you still may struggle for air. So you're going to have to think about what the kind of music and essentially the marketing of your style and your brand is going to be. Not to limit anything doesn't mean you can't play all music, but you should really think about what it is you want to do, not just vaguely, I don't want to play in orchestra, I don't want to teach, therefore I'm going to play in a string quartet or a woodwind quintet, which would be even harder to do full-time professionally. Then again, you don't have to do it full-time professionally, you can just do it in association with anything, but not knowing the specific context, it was kind of hard to say the specific advice. Man, I don't know. Are you guys in any chamber groups already? Any
Not
full-time?
currently.
Not full time, no.
I mean, I do think there's something to be said. Actually, I'll tell you, my first regular chamber group was with a bunch of either retired or older psychiatrists that were my neighbors.
Oh.
And they love to get together every single week. They get together on Thursday evenings and they'd read through the repertoire. They've been a string quartet for a very long time, probably been doing this for 15, 20 years. And when I moved next door as a little kid, I was maybe 12 or something like that. They thought, oh, this is going to be so cool. Now we can play all the clarinet repertoire, which of course we did in about 2 different sessions. So then they said, well, you play piano too. So now we can start a piano repertoire. That took much longer and we never got through it, but we did, session after session, week after week. And I have to say there was so much joy and so much just kind of enjoyment from that experience. The informality of it actually was something that a lot of those composers really wanted in the past. I mean, chamber music was designed for a kind of intimate and personal experience. It wasn't necessarily designed to be played in Carnegie Hall. In fact, it was specifically not designed to be played in Carnegie Halls to contrast with anything that might be presented at a large hall. And a lot of it was very personal. And so I think a lot of great chamber music is developed from those experiences, those intimate and really just perhaps purely personal enjoyment experiences. And many of those pieces were premiered like that too.
Right.
I mean, a lot of the Schumann and Brahms works were, Clara Schumann would read them in somebody's living room. I think the Schumann Piano Quintet was done like that with an audience of Chopin and Liszt or something. That was how those things were presented. And there's something to be said for those casual musical experiences that I think are sadly all but lost in society now. Everybody's got the big concert. Everybody's got a big concert, big audition, big something or other. But I think that the more we actually get away from that and discover just the kind of visceral and emotional sensation of playing music, the healthier it is for the whole musical world here. Maybe the entire world. It's healthier for the entire world. A much happier place.
Yeah, for sure. Since this audience is mostly high school students,
all three of them.
All 3 of them, exactly, and the people who will watch this later.
Yes, I guess.
It's probably a little bit easier for them because they are if you're in a music program in high school, you're probably around musicians the majority of the time. So I think it's fairly easy to meet people. But as Julia mentioned earlier, in high school, you have a lot of things you have to do with your time that you have. So I kind of wanted to ask you, why is it sort of important that high school students carve out a little bit of time in their really busy schedules to perform in their communities?
Well, that's a great question. And by perform in your communities, that can mean many different things, of course. And actually, just piggybacking on what we were just talking about, the idea of carving out time to just do something musical that you actually enjoy is as important as virtually anything else in music that you do. And again, there's so much pressure to get into summer festivals and get into college and study with the right teachers and fly around preparing your concerto competition piece. That pressure is not healthy. Music is not designed to be used that way. I mean, it's not like weaponized, and it really bothers me the amount of kind of co-opting and recommissioning of music there is for personal purposes. And I know it's one thing for me to say that, it's another thing for people who actually want to get into a college to say, okay, what do you do with that information? I can tell you what you can do with that. And that's to set aside real time to spend with music that you actually care about, that is of personal value to you. And one of the things I've noticed is that, especially in this era with the availability of technology, it seems like especially young musicians are not any more informed about the music that they're playing. In fact, sometimes less informed than they were even just a generation ago. It really is remarkable. And I think that's because the pressure on the professional side of what we're doing is so intense. A lot of times people don't even utilize the vast resource of technology and media that's available to them to, say, listen to the complete Beethoven string quartets or play the complete Beethoven string quartets with no real purpose. Or you decide, pick a random letter, go, oh, Shostakovich, today we're doing piano quintets. We'll do that one today, and get a group of friends together and read it through and think about it, especially when you're in high school. And honestly, that's the perfect time to do it. What's the pressure? Right. I mean, you might think like the weight of the world's on your shoulders. And I know I sound like I sound annoying for saying that it's not. but that's the time to do it. And I mean, I wish that I was in a position where I could do that more often. And every time I do, I'm so happy. And just a couple of days ago, I was just farting around with some guys, and we were just improvising. Actually, someone was playing like some Shostakovich violin song. I was trying to make up a new piano accompaniment to it, and I realized how fun that was. Like, that was so just like that there was no reason for doing that except because we were enjoying music, because we were just improvising or playing or doing whatever, or reading music. So yeah, that had very little to do with the specifics of your question at all. But I just kept kind of talking about the other thing. But yeah, it's very important to perform in your community. And we can talk about that. You guys, what do you think? I mean, when you say community, what does that mean?
Well, yeah, that's the question, right?
We should define what community means.
Yeah, I think. Well, when we were talking about what we were going to discuss with you, like something that I admire about you so much is just like seeing you in Oregon, just like walking down the street and people are like, "Hi, Teddy," and like everyone in every business like knows who you are. And it seems to be the same in Louisville, and you have your coffee shop you go to, and just like being a real person and being a member of your neighborhood. I think to me that just seems, it's such an incredible way to get the place where you live to care about what you're doing there. And for them to actually want to support the orchestra and come and not have it be some sort of thing that like there'd be a disconnect at all between them and like classical music as this thing on a pedestal that nobody can relate to.
Yeah, and well, that's a great kind of gateway topic. I mean, the idea of defining community, I think, is critical because it's a word that's used a lot. And people say, community, community, community. We need to do more community. And every grant application, if you ever read a grant, everyone says community. And every orchestra is now a community. It's like we serve the community, or we're an orchestra of the community. We're providing service to the community. Something is community this, community that. And that's all well and good, but it's not well and good if you're just saying that because you want people to think that you're for the community and you're actually not changing your action. You're not changing your philosophy, and you're not inherently kind of defining and then understanding and then acting upon what a relationship to the community means. So first you have to kind of define your community and who that is and what that is. And for me, it's pretty simple. If your orchestra has some city's name attached to it, of course, New World does not, because it serves the New World Order or whatever it is. But anyway, it serves everybody. But basically, if you're like the Louisville Orchestra, right, or the New York Philharmonic, then you better figure out who Louisville is and who it's comprised of. We better figure out what New York is and who lives there, who really lives there, not the community that you just happen to have inherited. And I think that's a big mistake. A lot of people go, well, we have these 2,000 people that seem to come to our concerts pretty regularly, and maybe there are these 8,000 people that come occasionally. So we've got 10,000 people. And you're in a city with what, 1 million, 2 million, 10 million. Mm-hmm. So that's a very narrow band of community. And to simply just say that you're serving community is not enough. So you have to really start with, I know this is a huge topic, but you have to start with, okay, who your community is. Then you have to figure out, A, what they want, but B, more importantly, what they need. Mm. And there are a lot of things that music can provide as a need for community that can be extremely powerful that people don't realize. I mean, it's all great when some famous artist tours through town. Like I'm sure, the touring Justin Bieber concert is going to be really pleasurable for all the people sitting there enduring it. But will that genuinely influence and better and improve our communities? No, because an orchestra, big, expensive, hulking organism that it is, can actually do these things if it's used and dreamed of properly. And so you have to think about what are the needs that your community might have for art and music to heal and bring people together and provide something that inspires on a daily basis. That's the job. It's not a one-off thing. Even if somebody only comes to one concert a year, it's about forming a relationship with people that strengthens the place that you live in. It's kind of what you said. I see my role as a conductor and music director, more importantly, as being a part of the community, the neighborhoods that I live in, the city that I live in. So I can't be aloof and outside of that, just looking in and then swooping down to conduct a concert, then getting out. My job is to really be in there and know people and talk to them and find out who they are. How can I serve them otherwise? It's kind of like a political position. If you're not of the people, You simply can't provide something for the people. You can't connect with them, and that's my job. It's all of our jobs. We're artists. We're supposed to be connecting with people. I mean, connecting is really, that's the only thing that matters, right?
So is this something you've realized over a long period of time, or have you always been interested in kind of breaking this barrier?
I think I've always been interested in it because I think I realized very early on that if I just wanted to do the music that I love, composing and playing and all these things that I love, I could do that very easily in a room with four walls. You don't actually have to do all this extra stuff. You could just be enclosed there, like a little evil kind of genius writing your music that nobody ever hears. We could all do that, but that takes away entirely this idea of connecting with human beings. And if you're going to have an orchestra, which is a very expensive proposition, an orchestra, of course, takes resources from the community. It runs on donations and ticket sales and foundations and corporations and sponsorship. If you're going to use those resources, then your job is to break down these barriers. And I think I realized that very early on because I had great people to look up to. I had Michael Tilson Thomas, of course, was my mentor and teacher growing up, and Bernstein before him, who was his mentor. These are people that cared about this philosophy of making music for everyone, and breaking down the barriers both inside our business, which can be stylistic ones, where we say we only play music like this, and that, and then audience barriers, which are many people thinking this music is only for these people. And I also realized pretty early on that you're going to put yourself out of business. I mean, you're going to go the way of the dinosaurs here, but it's not written in stone. We're not doomed to extinction at all. It's our choice. That's the great thing. It's not a meteor coming here. It's just, it's like global warming. Or, you know what I mean? So anyway.
Just some light topics, global warming and meteors.
I think we can probably cover it now. As long as we don't talk about the election, right?
Yeah, no, let's not talk about that.
They're high schoolers, so they can't even vote.
Exactly.
No, maybe the seniors. Go vote if you are a senior, definitely. Okay, anyway.
I have a question. This is sort of a goofy question, but what's sort of the weirdest place you've played sort of an engagement concert for the community? So anyone can answer this question.
Yeah. I've been talking plenty.
No, please. It's perfect.
You want me to keep talking? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. So I was just, before I came here, I was at Whole Foods down in Miami. I was reminded of a performance I did at the Whole Foods in Miami, which was one of about 220 or 230 random acts of culture that I did with my trio. And that's a good example of how to start a chamber group. It was 3 people. Actually, it ended up being 4 people, but it's whatever. It's still a trio. We all went to the Curtis Institute together and went our separate ways after school ended. And then we got back together the next summer because we loved playing together so much. We had no specific plan, just to get together and start preparing this one concert. And we did. And it went really well, super fun, totally new styles of music. We played some jazz and some rock and some classical and some bluegrass and all these things we wanted to try. And it went from there that we started playing together more frequently. We put together projects, one of which was a partnership with the Knight Foundation, a big foundation here in Miami. And they had us play these random acts of culture across the country. And we played them, you name it, we've played it. The Whole Foods that was pretty fun. We attached the keyboard to a shopping cart and rolled it around and played with a clarinetist and a bassoonist. But that was an easy one. We got him chased off property before. Usually we had permission to do it, but we had, in the South, you have to be a little more careful. And this is the South. I know that's Miami. Let's see, we played at a casino once, which was one of the weirdest experiences ever because nobody looked up from their stupid slot machines. But anyway, you name it, hospitals and airports, we would get permission to go inside the airports. And when people are delayed for a flight, you would not believe how delighted they are when somebody walks up with a keyboard, a bassoon, a violin, and starts playing Carry On My Wayward Son for them. Pretty That's delighted. Music does. We would say it may not change your life, but it will change your day. And one change at a time leads to the improvement of our well, our species, our condition, but also just music and the world of music. It forms one little bond. And surprising how frequently people can go through life without having an artistic or musical interaction. It's amazing. And sometimes you have to just go to them. It's not really their fault. They're busy. They've got kids and school and jobs and challenges, life challenges we all do. So sometimes our job is to go find them and make music for them. Since we are mobile, we can go wherever. Like a little unit, a mobile unit,
right?
Mobile musical unit.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I'm sure there's thousands. Do we have any questions coming in?
No questions
No
yet.
questions coming in. All right. So I just want to tailor this conversation a little bit more towards high school students, because this is our main audience for these Hangouts is sort of 15 through 19. And I think at that age, I might just be speaking for them because I'm now no longer that age, but they have a lot of hesitancy to sort of start doing things because most of the stuff is done for them or they're told to do things. So do you think there's an easy way to sort of get through that barrier of being able to approach, say, a home for seniors and say, we're going to come play for you, like on this day?
I think people would be very pleasantly surprised to find out just how willing folks are to engage with you if you want to do something for your community, if you want to give back. And I did this with my assistant in Louisville. I said, I want to do a week. It's not even an official thing. Just call up like these places. It was a St. Vincent de Paul. It was a soup kitchen. It was a rehab center for people that can't afford to go to regular hospitals. It was a bunch of things. So just call them up. Every single one of them said, absolutely, come whenever you want. We'll do whatever. We'll organize something around it. And people were so willing. And granted, I can leverage the resources of the orchestra, but I think it's pretty much anywhere. And the great thing is there's so many worthy places and people that need our music, that need it. If somebody can't make it work, and there are a lot of disorganized but great charities out there, then you can move on to the next one. It's not, don't get stuck. That's a big thing. Like if you want to do something like that, but there are also lots of vehicles in place already to do this. And a lot of times what you can do if you really want to give back is you can tap into an existing charity, like find something like a place that deliver meals with a twist, play them a song too. One of those places that packs backpacks filled with lunches for kids that can't afford to have. And put some musical instruments and maybe some kind of like CD that you compile that helps them play with it. Something like make it so there's an artistic component to things. There are tons of ideas like that, but spend a few minutes just brainstorming and thinking about it. I think you'll come up with something really cool, and it is pretty gratifying. Those are the times when you really realize that you're connecting with human beings that need what we have to say or what we have to translate between the art and folks.
Well, when I was in middle school, I have 3 sisters who also play the violin. And
I know one of them.
You know one of them from Louisville?
Yes.
And we would just go into retirement homes and give concerts, and they were always willing. Just calling any retirement home in the area.
Yes. I think it's and also, especially if you're in high school, it's a great thing to do just for experience, getting in front of people and playing your repertoire. So there is some personal benefit to it too.
For a totally willing audience.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, just experimenting with styles and formats. But I think that extends to a bigger picture conversation, probably for which we don't have time. but just about being entrepreneurial and going and doing things. Like I think a lot of people assume that the established series and whatever the establishment happens to be in your town, that's the way to go. But really, there's no reason to limit yourself to that. You can create your own musical pathway not very easily, but at least very doably, I would say.
So just ask
and think. If you think of a good idea, don't say that's a good idea and then don't do it. Like actually do it and see where it goes.
Okay, so John from Mosaic asks, why did you give up the clarinet for conducting? Or did you give up the clarinet?
I did not give up the clarinet. No, I'm playing it in this concert. I give it up for periods of a few months at a time. But no, I didn't give it up. In fact, one of the most important things a conductor can do, I think, for the 3 probably non-conductors who are watching this, is to never, ever stop playing your instrument. You just can't. You're asking people to do physical things. You have to retain a connection to that physicality of making music. As a conductor, you can't you can't lose that sense of actually holding an instrument and creating sounds with your hands or your mouth, whatever it is that you play. And I try and challenge myself too. We did the Copeland Clark Concerto play conduct this last season in Louisville, and that's, you got to give yourself something to shoot for and to grow with. Long answer to the question, but yes, I still play.
So we're playing some of your pieces this week. Do you,
Yes.
when you're composing, do you gravitate towards hard clarinet parts, or?
I think I just gravitate probably towards hard everything parts, right?
Yes.
Julia's that. Well, you guys have escaped from Unified Field, which is my latest piece,
Oh.
and is one of the. I mean, I don't set out to write really, really hard stuff. It's just what I hear, unfortunately. So you can imagine how tormenting it is for me to have to live inside that brain. You know what I mean? Like that's just who I am, I guess. But yeah, that piece is insane. And it was just a little too long for this already very long program. But I'm super excited about this program. This program is this is absolutely my kind of thing. Just this giant range of what America is all about. And I think it's, you know what, without actually talking about the elections specifically, it's the perfect antidote to all this horrible bickering and miserableness that's going on. This is like such a great example of what America is capable of in art in this program. So I'm so excited about doing something that's positive for this country. It's just such a reminder that the people in this nation came up with this stuff. They dreamed this up, and no one else did. We did it. You know what I mean? That's something we should be super proud of. So if you're in Miami,
Come.
yes, exactly.
Great. I just want to sort of ask everyone if they can remember their first time they chose to do an engagement opportunity, and like where it was and what it was and that kind of thing. I can start.
Yeah.
My first one was, I was 14. It was my second year of playing the bassoon. So we could all imagine how good I was at the bassoon at 14. And we had a hospital in my hometown for veterans that came back from the war. And it was called the Soldiers Memorial Hospital. And we went in and did a holiday concert for them. And we got to play these like random holiday tunes, nothing hard, just like pretty easy standard stuff. It was 4 or 5 of us. And then we found this one song somewhere that someone knew, and this older gentleman, one of the veterans, came up after and said, that song, my grandmother used to sing it to me like back in the 30s. And we were like, oh, this is the first real moment of like, this has an effect on people. So that's sort of the first memory I have of feeling engaged in my town of 1,800 people. Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's pretty cool.
I don't have any concrete memory of my first, but I would play in retirement homes and intensive care units with my sisters. And I always remembered, even if they seemed like they weren't engaged, a couple people after would really show that it made a big difference to them. So you don't realize how many people you're affecting, because sometimes they can't show you how much, but you really do.
Yeah.
Well, when I was in Chicago Youth Symphony Orchestra, we would go and do concerts in high schools around Chicago pretty often. But also in 7th grade, I started going to Whitney Young Magnet High School in Chicago. And unfortunately, Chicago public schools don't really have music, so to speak. But I was in advanced high school orchestra, and I was 12, but they had no harp. They really didn't have many instruments. And I was one of the only people who knew how to read music, so I ended up playing percussion. And we went on tour to St. Louis, actually, and we played in a veteran's home, and I played the snare drum on When Johnny Comes Marching Home. I wonder if it's too late to switch back to percussion. It would be more job prospects. But I just remember the veterans like crying silently, and it was incredibly moving. Might have been my snare drum playing in retrospect.
That was it. Yeah.
No, it was a really incredible experience. And then one of my favorite experiences, was a little bit later in high school. I went and I played at a women's shelter in Uptown, about 10 minutes away from where I grew up in Chicago. And they said that there were constantly people who, you know, were never quiet or sat still ever, until I came and played, and people just sat there for an hour completely in silence, and it was amazing. And a lot of the women came up afterwards. My mom and I had brought my harp, and they were like, it's been such an incredible thing to see like two strong women like moving this huge instrument like all by yourself without the help of anybody else. So that was really great.
Great. I think we have about like 30 seconds left. So
We have time for you if you want.
Oh, well, are there any other questions from the viewers?
No, but we had apparently 20 to 26 viewers that we couldn't see.
Oh,
I guess that they just kind of they wove in and out. Well, I mean, I hope this is all helpful for everybody.
I think it will be.
I mean, this is such a great resource to have. Yeah, I mean, not myself. I'm not including myself. I just talk, but no, to have fellows here who, especially if they're trying to reach high school audiences. I mean, this is the time to ask. This is like one of those things where I said you have all the resources in the world to make connections and get information and use the technology and the modern era to help you to whatever your dreams are. And New World is providing the platforms for everybody. Like no one else is innovating as much as this orchestra. So whether it's for high school folks or just whatever college they're connecting with or audiences around the world, I mean, I say just people just use this resource because New World is doing stuff that nobody else is, and really providing the information and the connections to make our world more available. So I commend the 26 for being a part of that, and commend the whole institution. It's a pretty amazing place.
Yeah, it is. All right, I think it's.
All right.
I think we're just about done. So thanks.
All right.
Thank you, Teddy, for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
thank you for watching.
And
Thanks for
yeah,
watching.
thanks for watching.